Welcome, everybody. If you are hearing my voice instead of Jeff's, you might be confused, but this is Jess Paul, and we're coming on our 500th episode of the Film Invasion LA Sherman Oaks Film Festival TVHI Diff podcast.
This is the podcast.
This is the podcast.
This is the 500th, number 500.
This is the opportunity to get to know Jeff, your host, your longtime host, a little bit better after the years and years. A decade now, Jeff?
2017. So actually 8 years. In fact,
we're coming on it. Yeah.
Too late to the party. I'm now whipping up the website so I can tell you the day of the very first episode's release.
Oh, how nostalgic.
Yeah, I know. I actually kind of am nostalgic about this.
Oh.
When I go to the discoverindiefilm.com website and I go to the very first one, it was August 4th, 2017.
Wow. Late summer. 2017. Trump had gotten elected a year prior. That's what I, in modern days I try to scale everything from. It's the trauma and everything in me. But yeah, and it was before the pandemic, so between two traumas. And let's just forget that and dive into some more interesting things. You guys have been getting to know a little bit about Jeff as he has asked people questions, and they have inevitably probably asked a few back. But let's for the first time dive into the origin story that is Jeff Howard. Okay, Jeff, I'm going to just whip the same question back to you that you've asked so many people. Tell us where it all started.
You know what? I'm glad I prepared for that one. I actually do know my answer, which is, so I was always a creative kid. I was always writing. Mm-hmm. When I was too young to know what poetry was, I was trying to write poems and shit. And then I'm a massive Beatles fan. At the age of around 4.5, there was a local station in Los Angeles back when TV was something that came through the air.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there was an antenna. And every 4th of July, I forget which indie channel here in LA, but there was a non-network channel. Nice thing about living in LA is we had the 3 major networks and then 4 or 5, even more, other channels. There was one that always showed the Beatles' Yellow Submarine on 4th of July. So I saw that. My brother and I got so entranced by it that we would rather watch Yellow Submarine than light fireworks in the backyard. So I watched it, and then we got the soundtrack, and then I proceeded to get every Beatles album at the used record store or just collected them. And I would always lay on the couch of my parents' den. We called it a den. Nowadays, you probably just call it whatever, family room, TV room. And I would imagine there were just movies in my head that matched the songs.
Right.
Didn't know these were music videos. Odds are it was from watching Yellow Submarine with visuals set to the songs. But I would just picture, whatever. I would just listen to a Beatles song and just picture, obviously the early stuff is just mostly love songs. So I would probably picture dates and things. I was just always directing music videos in my head, actually, as a kid. And there is no technology, right? This is, I'm rubbing my face because I was born in 1968. I probably shouldn't say the date.
Year before the Summer of Love.
Yeah. I was born the month the White Album was released. And I have a joke. As someone born in the 60s, everyone I meet who's also my age, I always name the Beatles album they were born. The year, if you were born from 64 to 70, I can do it. But so I'm a White Album baby. That's a distraction. I just distracted myself. But where was I saying?
It's your podcast. You can edit it however you want.
Oh, there's no editing. This goes. No. But so why was I talking about that?
This was the origin story.
Yeah, the origin story. Oh yeah, so anyway, I really did. Oh, there was no technology, right? So there was no. If you wanted to shoot, there was no video. like a video camera was like the size of a suitcase.
Yeah.
And my parents had a very, they were Depression era babies. They were pre-boomer. Mm-hmm. My parents were older than baby boomers. So their parent, they were born during the war.
Oh, yeah.
So money wasn't wasted. And so there was no film camera, no nothing. So I really just turned to paper until I just considered myself a writer, to be honest. I in sixth grade, this was actually kind of pivotal for me. In sixth grade, I was bused because in LA we were trying to improve the world, and so I was bused from my majority white school to majority Latino school. Uh-huh. And that caused a lot of white flight from the LAUSD system and stuff, from the LA public school system. So I was in a classroom in sixth grade where there was basically 4 of us at grade level and 26 kids below sixth grade level. Oh. So the teacher took the 4 kids, myself included, put us in a corner, and it was kind of like independent study. Do whatever the fuck you want. Because you can read and write. You're fine. And you can do the math. So I don't know why, but I wrote a play. And then the 4 of us were allowed to go into the playground during class and rehearse it. And then we went from classroom to classroom performing it.
Really?
Yeah. And we even, get this, we even got to use like a yellow squirt gun because there was actually a gun in the play.
Yeah,
I can't believe there was a gun in the play. I can't remember much about the play, but I remember we always got a laugh when the person got squirted in the face. And so that was like kind of huge, like writing a play and performing with your friends and then having like getting applause from your peers and the kids young. Because there was like, 4 sixth grade classes, and then we did it I think they let us perform it for the 5th and 4th graders too.
Yeah. I'm a little bit curious about this, the details of this arrangement, because she said, go ahead and do whatever you want. And did you take it upon yourself to be the director of these other 3 children?
I didn't even know what that was, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I literally sat down at a typewriter in my parents' house and typed out this script. And I didn't even know, like, maybe they don't make you read plays as kids. I just knew plays exist. Yeah, so I just wrote out what we were going to say and do. Yeah, I technically did direct them. I never thought of that till now. I just thought we did it. We might have actually worked that all out together collaboratively. Sure. It might have just been, more like a troupe.
Yeah.
Of 4.
So they didn't have their own project. You guys all decided that we're going to do this play.
Yeah, in fact, I think I just brought it in and said, "Hey, you guys want to do this?"
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I don't think it was like, "Hey, I'm going to go. If I write a play, will you guys do it?" Like,
and did you know these kids well, or did you just kind of bring them under your wing?
Yeah, they were my 3 closest friends.
Oh, they were, okay.
Yeah, in fact, one of them I haven't seen since we were around 13, 14.
Oh, wow.
But I am aware that he became a professional cinematographer and director.
No way!
Yeah.
Oh, if you guys could see each other now.
I know. Sometimes I think of reaching out.
Yeah.
We have one mutual Facebook friend.
Maybe this will be the catalyst.
Who knows? I don't know. He's what he shouldn't mind because he's more successful than me, so that should work out fine for him.
Oh, but isn't that arbitrary and subjective though?
I suppose.
I mean, you're literally sitting here at your 500th podcast, having done years of successful 2 a year film festivals in California, in Los Angeles area, kind of discerning the fate of a lot of filmmakers. Maybe not their entire fate, but like what's going to happen for them that year and how they're going to feel going forward. I mean, something about the Sherman Oaks Festival, as I've experienced, is that it dives a lot deeper into the process with your longer form interviews than any other festival that I've been to. And I've been to a nice handful all around the country. And I've really appreciated that about your festival.
Yeah, I mean, we take the perspective, and I mean, it comes from me, that we treat it more like a screening. Like I always enjoyed I was a member, it's now called Film Independent, but I was a member of Independent Feature Project, which was what came before Film Independent, which is just a nonprofit in LA that just helps out indie filmmakers and do screens. And they present the Independent Spirit Awards. They figured they started doing that. Yeah. But like I remember my card said like I was number 513 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I imagine if you joined today, you're like, they're in the tens of thousands. But,
oh my God.
But I would love going to a screening and then there'd be a good Q&A afterwards with the director. And it wasn't like 2 questions and done, you know? It was really good. I saw some really wonderful Q&As. I got to see a Q&A with Darren Aronofsky before Pi was released.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when he was still nobody. He was still a dude who'd basically asked every one of his parents' friends for money to make that movie, right? And then he's sitting there with us talking about it, you know, theater of 70, 80 people.
Right.
And I enjoyed that. So I was just like, okay, we'll do these film festivals and we'll do the Q&As like those that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was a little unaware of how other festivals were run because when we haven't gotten, this is a long way out, but jumping all over the timeline now, but when I was attending festivals with films that I was involved in, yeah, sometimes there'd be a Q&A and sometimes there just wouldn't.
Wow.
Oh, I just got a great memory. So I'll remember. When we get there, I'll mention what happened in Houston. It was
what
cool.
happened in Houston? Okay, because we're still on the origin story here.
Yeah,
we
true.
We didn't get to adolescence.
I'm still
yet.
sort of yeah.
So tell me again what grade you were in for the
That
play
was
that you
sixth
directed.
grade.
Sixth grade.
That was sixth grade. I would have been probably 11.
Yep.
Because I turned 13 during 8th grade.
That's funny. That's when a lot happened for me as well. Because that's the preteen time of your life where you're kind of developing who you are as a member of society just a little bit, getting the first sniff of it through puberty and
you can't shut off your brain ever. Like this brain inside your head is suddenly thinking for itself more than it ever has.
For sure.
Oh, I wrote philosophy. I wrote inane, stupid philosophy. I was writing everything.
Yeah.
Well, I had pretty bad insomnia, I think,
okay.
I didn't consider it bad insomnia. I just knew I was up all night with a pad of paper and a pen or a deck of cards because there was no phone or anything. Uh-huh. And, and TV, literally TV would shut off at like midnight. After midnight, there'd be there's no signal coming through the air. So yeah, I would just write stuff out, write out thoughts and things. But I was never a diarist, by the way. I always thought that was
You were doing the bullet journal before it existed.
I guess. Yeah, I never talked about my day or anything. I just, I don't know.
Just your ideas, your fantasies, your futures.
Yeah, just ideas or stories.
Yeah, stories.
Yeah, I need to tell stories, I think.
So going into high school, tell us about how that, that 4-person play kind of rolled into more creative projects that you picked up.
The disappointing answer is I kind of turned my back on it.
Yeah.
I went to my... By the way, my parents were not happy that... that Sergio, Jesse, Adam, and Jeff were put in the corner of the 6th grade classroom and allowed to basically not be taught and teach themselves. That didn't go over too well, actually. So my parents, the following year, moved us to a private school. Uh-huh. My brother and I, who was 2 years older. So starting in 9th grade for him and 7th grade for me. And it was a school that was 7 through 12 here in Van Nuys of beautiful San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles. And so all of a sudden, there's more of a workload.
Yeah.
And it was not nurtured at all by anyone or anywhere. So at that point, it was just me staying up at night writing, and it was all maybe a friend or two would see it, but honestly, most of the time I wouldn't share with anyone. It was almost like a secret personal project. All the creativity was so it wasn't nurtured at all. And I was into sports. Was never into watching sports. I was into playing sports and played basketball and tennis. And that was the focus. And then I did have a near miss with creativity or performance. In 12th grade, I got recruited to be the lead in a play.
Okay. That's important.
Yeah, but it goes wrong.
Oh no! Well, that's a good
it doesn't
story.
go wrong.
Wait,
It was during tennis season, so school would end at 3 or 3:30, and I'd go practice, and then I'd run home and eat, and then run back to school for the rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is too much."
Yeah, I
and
can
I,
imagine.
and I just I was going to share. So there is going to be a theme to my life story, which is that as a cisgendered male, I'm very I've always when I fall for someone, I fall. But so anyway, so I was supposed to do that play and become Julie Grossman's boyfriend because like I had a crush on her, and she was the female lead.
Whoa!
And
Fate was putting you together.
and she even said, I remember her saying to me as we were walking into rehearsal, she's like, "Are you ready to fall in love with me?" And I'm like, "This would be great." So that's the only time that I didn't let attraction change my direction in life. So that's a very funny memory. I remember that. She took my hand. She was like walking me by the hand. I'm like, "This would be great." She ended up with my really good friend. So anyway, and I wasn't mad.
No.
But so I dropped out of that play, and someone else had to take over, and I went, and yeah, I would have been better.
So this whole time, throughout high school, you were still planning. You were still writing. You were still fantasizing. You for one day to turn it into something like, because I did the same thing. You were talking about your poems. I wrote pop lyrics, rock lyrics all the way through high school. I don't know what I was going to do with them, but I sometimes wrote one a night. So, was there a goal when it came to writing down, or were you was it an outlet of sorts?
It was just an outlet for me, and I never had goals. And I just remembered I left off one part of my journey.
Cover it all.
Which was a complete obsession with Steve Martin. I had somewhere when my best friend in the world, Sujay, and I met in 7th grade, first week of 7th grade. Well, I might as well confess, I was a little biased towards brown people because I really found the all Latino school, everyone was nicer than my uppity white school. So Sujay and I met like the first week of 7th grade, and we just became best friends instantly because we both had all 4 Steve Martin records. I think there were only 3 at that point, and the 4th came out later. And we had them memorized.
Wow.
Like word for word, every Steve Martin joke that he chose to record and release.
I was going to say, so when you say record, because I know he can play a couple of instruments there.
Oh, no, these are comedy albums.
Stand-up
comedy
okay.
albums, which for some reason were heavily edited. I didn't know that till later.
Okay.
But so I was obsessed with comedy and stand-up and watching Letterman every night with my insomnia. We discovered Letterman in 8th grade, actually. So 13 years old, watching a show that was 12:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. every night because there was no VCR.
Okay.
And so I must admit, I probably really desperately wanted to be a comedian. And then I dropped out of the play senior year, but then a talent show happened.
In the same year?
We did not normally do. There'd never been talent shows, I don't think, at our school, but they decided to hold one. And so I just said, all right, I'll do stand-up.
Yeah? How'd it go?
There was a rehearsal, and I realized, fuck, that didn't go the way I wanted. So I went home, and then I wrote it out real fast. And then I went back to school, and I killed. It was great. I was fucking great.
Oh, that's a good story.
Honestly, like...
That's good to hear.
People came up to me after that and said, you should do this.
Yeah? So that was the last year of high school.
That was the last year of high school. I was 17 by then.
Right. Okay. So now we're going out into the real world. Tell me about like the next portion of your life. Was it college? Was it your next job? Like it
was college. I was from one of those families where like college was not even it was going to college was like breathing air. Like there was no option to not go to college. And I chose UC Santa Barbara for a girl. The summer before I'd lost my virginity, and I thought if I went to Santa Barbara, she'd go to Santa Barbara.
Right.
She said, you should go to Berkeley. She lived in Northern California. I was in Southern California. I won't go into that whole story, but I basically followed my heart to Santa Barbara, and then she went to Davis.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so whatever. I got to start fresh in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was interesting because before that, I thought maybe I would stay home and go to UCLA and pursue the comedy thing a little, but didn't. And then when I got to Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara was interesting because like I know a lot of colleges now have sketch troupes and sort of a scene. Zero.
Okay.
None of that. So again, I would just like sit and write actually when everyone was asleep.
When everyone was asleep. And in your 4 years of college, was it, did you, besides the writing and the fantasizing, the planning, did you exercise any of that creativity in those, inside the walls of your college?
I finally did in year 3. Mm-hmm. I found out that my junior year, I found out there was a screenwriting class. I was a mass media major in the communications department. It was a radio, TV, film, because they had film studies or radio, TV, film. And I actually was kind of interested in TV, like career-wise. When I thought about it, I thought it'd be cool to be the kind of person who decides what's on TV, like that.
Oh,
I wasn't thinking of being creative.
A programmer at heart.
Yeah, I know that is. I did not put that. Thank you for pointing that out. And curation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I had earlier that junior year when all my roommates were asleep, I started writing a play that turned into a screenplay.
Okay.
By hand. Long form. And I used that. So this class was really cool. This was in a class where a guy who had been a Hollywood producer for 45, 50 years, retired, and, he'd done well, so he had a nice big home in Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. And when he retired, he went to the film studies department of UC Santa Barbara and said, I didn't go to college. I have, 47 years of producing experience in Hollywood where it's been all about the scripts. How about I run a screenwriting class for you?
Yeah.
And they said yes to him. And then about 50, 60 kids applied each quarter. It was quarterly. Like that matters. And he liked my writing sample and put me in the class of 12 people.
Wow.
And that's when I first learned screenplay format.
Right.
And to his credit, he's the kind of guy, he's the kind of person who read, I don't think maybe I'd retyped it. But it might have actually just been a handwritten thing that looked like, because by then I'd read plays, right? I'd read Shakespeare and shit in English classes, so I knew play format. And so he put me in that class, and that's when I first started taking it seriously, the idea of being a screenwriter.
Okay.
I thought, yeah. And then...
What was it about? What was one of your most notable screenplays about from that class?
So he ran... I guess I didn't realize that till right now that he would give a little assignment and we'd basically write a 10 to 12 page, 10 to 15 page short. So there was, God, I can't remember what any of it was. And then I went, and then and then I think the last couple weeks of the class, maybe the last 2 weeks, we pumped out the first act of a feature.
Nice. Okay, already getting you on the feature game.
Yeah, I liked it. So I went to him, and I was the kind of person, I went to office hours of professors exactly 0 minutes of my college career. I never spoke to a professor.
Okay.
I never went for help. I got as little out of college as possible. I'm not proud of it. You know what I mean?
What'd you do with your time besides the screenplay class?
Just listen to music and write and just hang out with friends. Mm-hmm. Drink, smoke, weed. was an unserious person. Not going to lie.
It sounds like a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a normal person,
Yeah,
but
I
I
was
was
gonna
quite
say.
unserious about getting the most out of my education. Oh, and I mean, like when I chose Santa Barbara over Berkeley, like that betrayed that I was an idealist who thought people aren't going to judge me by what school I go to. It doesn't matter. So anyway, I was like, I didn't care about achieving anything because I didn't think that it mattered. It's kind of weird. So somehow I went back to him and said, hey, I'd really like to finish this script. But I might have said something like, to squeeze it in my schedule, like, could I do independent study with you? He must have mentioned independent study at one point. And he said, okay. So he took me on, and I had to turn in, I think, 10 to 15 pages a week. So every week, I would just show up at his office, hand him the pages. We'd discuss the pages I'd given him the week before, probably like 15, 20 minutes of his time. And then I'd go back home. So you can imagine what my time distribution became as far as like working on my actual classes.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, so it was a script called, no, wait, that script came later. I can't remember the title.
You know what it was about?
Yeah, it was about a screenwriter. I hate. By the way, yeah, you have to be so good if you make a film about a writer. Oh man, I get so sick of those. But anyway, maybe that's why.
Hey, write what you know.
Yeah,
I guess.
I remember it was about. Oh, okay. I'll be super honest. I thought Alyssa Milano was this super talented young woman from Tony Danza's show. And then I saw all the male actors her age moving on, and she wasn't. So I pictured writing a screenplay for her.
Okay.
So the script started with like a cheesy sci-fi movie where a girl's running down a hallway with lasers fighting and she's jiggling. And then she turns the camera and goes, this is way too stupid. And then you see her like dropping a script. So the motif was that this actress with some TV experience was looking for to make him to be the lead of a film.
Right.
And she couldn't find a good enough script. And so she recruited this writer she really respected who had kind of quit on the business because he was an idealist and couldn't get anything through the system.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I've got some weight to me. Let's collaborate. So they collaborate and fall in love. And that was, God, what was the fucking title?
Two idealists working together. Did you have, when it came to the writings that you had even through, your adolescence, did they have a theme? Was there a running thread or were you all over the place with ideas and mediums?
All over the place, but I always liked breaking walls down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, whether it was that fourth wall
okay.
or just, yeah, I mean, well, by then I was really, I was a Monty Python fan
sure.
and this and that. So any idea of rule breaking was just like, I was always anti-authoritarian. I guess and so you sort of see, I guess I already saw Hollywood as the authority
sure.
that you should raise your pitchfork to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, because I would just go see any film from England. Like I was an art house guy.
Yeah,
for sure, of course. Hell yeah! I mean, I saw Blue Velvet when it came out.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Cool. So,
yeah. So that's. So there was no theme to my work besides the fact that I always tried to break rules within it. Although my scripts were actually pretty normal.
Normal, yeah.
I don't know, not normal, but they were. I guess I've had a thing where stuff was always normal to me, and then people be like, "That's really weird." I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." I didn't realize.
I'm trying to look at it like on a macro level, and it's funny because we are sitting here in Los Angeles, and we both are pretty adjacent to the major industry, but on the other hand, both of us have found niches and found pockets where we find independent film thriving, in our own ways. I produce my independent films. You curate the best of them in this city. So it's like we understand and we work next to this industry, but at the same time, we find the pieces that are just a bit more genuine and honest and foundational, down to earth. Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's really interesting. So, okay, we're on year 3 of college. We got to fill up this timeline.
That's true. Year 3 of college. Yeah. So that script, when I finished the script, whose title we cannot remember, I guess I was a friend's aunt or uncle or cousin worked at a production company. And so he gave him the script. And
you had it fully fleshed out by that point.
Yeah, it was done. It was done, and it was done with the help of that professor who was a retired producer. And it was good enough that they handed it to their boss, and they handed it to their boss. So it moved all the way up, and they called me and gave me really good feedback. Not like they bought it or anything, but so I actually got positive feedback on that, which is a big deal to a kid, right?
Yeah.
Because actually I'm probably 20, 21 at that point.
Sure. That makes sense.
Which I didn't know how young I was, but you're still forming while you're in college. So I kind of believed in it, and I can remember conversations with my parents where they'd be like, this industry is really hard and blah blah blah, and I'd be like, yeah, but they just want to make money. So if they can make money with the shit I write, then they will make money with it. Like I was kind of a capitalist about it too. I was like, look, if I'm good enough, they'll take my stuff and they'll make more money than me.
Right.
And if I'm not good enough, they won't. Like I sort of took that attitude.
Oh, that's very progressive and understanding of you.
Yeah. But again, I was a little disconnected from, even though that one thing, I was kind of on the outside and, did the query letter thing and stuff. And then I wrote one, I do remember the title. It was Walking Backwards. And I finished, so that was the first post-college feature that I wrote.
What was that one about?
It was about marrying someone the night you meet.
Oh.
Yeah. Just a groomsman and a bridesmaid are like, we think they just both happened to I think she overheard him saying that you shouldn't, dating is not, dating someone. It was a philosophical dating movie.
Yeah.
It was based on the premise that dating does not set you up for marriage. That dating does a very bad job because you're preening and pruning and not being yourself and blah, blah, blah. So what you should do is meet a stranger, say, let's get married right now, and then get to know each other within a marriage where we treat each other. What do you think about that idea now? Well, I don't know. Probably a bad idea. But when I was young, I still thought it had potential. I don't know. So walking, and so I won't remember all the details, but that script actually did pretty well for me. And it won the grand prize at Slam Dance.
That's awesome.
The first year that they had a screenplay competition for unproduced screenplays. And I should point out, because one person called me on this, at the time it happened, I said, yeah, I just won the grand prize. And then there's no websites yet, but they gave 3 scripts the grand prize. But very importantly, a gentleman named John Fitzgerald, who is one of the Slam Dance founders. This was just, I believe, Slam Dance's second year. Might have been their second or third year. Yeah, Slam Dance was brand new. Slam Dance was just originally, I think it was just a handful of people who got rejected from Sundance, just rented a space where they could, a small space to show their shit on a wall. Yeah. They're like, and they just called it Slam Dance to go up against Sundance. So Slam Dance was still pretty iconoclastic back then. And John Fitzgerald called me and said, "Is this Jeff Howard?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, I just want to tell you, I read Walking Backwards personally, and I just want to say bravo."
Nice.
And I thanked him. And then we actually had a conversation where, after the fact, I realized I blew it.
Why? How?
Because he was actually interested in the script. And I basically responded to that by saying, I think I want to direct it.
Oh.
And then he totally receded from the conversation when I said that, because I was actually I was either working on or had just shot an indie feature.
Oh, you shot an indie feature?
I made an indie feature in the era when a guy named Dove Kellemer had released... Was it Dove? Maybe it wasn't. Someone released a book called Feature Films for Used Car Prices. Something like that.
Okay.
And that's the book that Kevin Smith read and made Clerks. I think it's also the book that Ed Burns read and made Brothers McMullen. So it was in the air.
Yeah.
So I had read that book too. So I was making my version of that, but I fucked up and made a really intense drama about sex abuse. Not a crowd pleaser.
I guess so.
Clerks and McMullen were like fun and funny, and I was super about comedy, but when I sat down to write this thing, it was all about sexual dysfunction. But I could tell you why.
Yeah, sure.
I was roommates with two people, shall go nameless, but a lovely brother and sister, and we were roommates after college. We were roommates, and when I showed the sister the script, she like gave me the weirdest look, and she's like, "This happened in my family." She was like, "We never told you, but our oldest brother, he was a drug addict, and he was raping her."
Oh no!
And that was kind of that was in a script called Too Much Sex.
Yeah, that was the script that the first
so
feature
Too
you
Much
produced.
Sex. So Too Much Sex is the film that I made for like used car prices.
Right. And so okay,
So I had picked up on their vibe and written their story without them telling me their story.
That sounds a little psychic, a little paranormal.
Maybe, yeah. I know. It blew her away.
And that was
making an effort not to use her name.
Did she and so she read it before you made it or after you had produced it?
I believe she read it after. Yeah, because I could have sent her a VHS after it was made. I sent it to her before it was made.
Okay.
And so she and I did discuss it, and that gave me, I think, more faith into making it.
I gotcha.
So I made that, and then that was my first festival experience.
How'd that go? What was that like?
In Houston.
Here we go.
It premiered at World Fest Houston, and they did not give me a Q&A, but
okay.
I'm very proud of the fact that when the film ended, the audience stayed in their seats, and when the person from the festival came up and people started discussing the film. And she went, "Well, that's the guy who made it." Uh-huh. And then we had there was 20 minutes till the next film showed. So even though there was no Q&A, I sat in the middle of the audience answering questions, people going back and forth, and people arguing with each other about why did the sister do this? Why did the brother like it sparked a debate about this relationship between the older brother and the younger sister, where the older brother could not live with the fact that he didn't kill their father. The abuser was not an older brother, was a father. And he was hung up on the fact that he should have just committed murder to protect his little sister. And she was worried about him because he was sort of a celibate, weird monk sort of guy who could not associate with women. And she just wanted him to break out of his shell because she felt he was unhealthy sexually. And so it was a real psychosexual. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Sadly, whatever.
I was going to ask, as this is kind of a retrospective here, as all the podcasts are, what is your current perception of that film? Was it success?
It could have been good.
Could have been good. It sounded like it got quite a reception, quite a positive reception.
It was okay for what it was. when you make use of feature film for in the era of film, it was shot on 16, which is, so zero budget basically.
Yeah.
There's no budget beyond film and developing and sound. So, unpaid actors, unpaid crew, unpaid everything. And so, I would say it was a respectable amateur effort. That's how I would describe it. I will share that. So back then, after the little and by the way, I can't tell you how many festivals I submitted to, but it might have only been like very few. And in fact, I submitted to World Fest Houston because they had some category that was about sex.
Oh, okay.
And it was a pretty sexual film. So
Sure.
I felt like that
Like
was a...
Had it in the title. And
exactly.
themes. Yeah.
Exactly. So back then, when you showed your film to people or submitted it to people, you submitted a 16 millimeter print. I had a print. So I actually was contacted by Miramax
Oh, really?
and sent them the 3 reels that constituted this 90-minute film. Might have been under 90. But, and they watched the whole, all I can tell you is I know they watched the whole thing. And I gave them Walking Backwards. I gave them that Walking Backwards screenplay with it. And because there was the popcorn, what do you call it? The styrofoam popcorn was in each reel to keep the reels from shaking around too much in transit, as if they were destructible. And and the popcorn was out of all 3 reels when I received it back.
Got it.
So they didn't watch reel 1 and stop.
Got it. Oh, wow. What a nice little trick.
I know that's. But they said something like they really respected it and they were passing, and I was like, no worries. I don't know. I didn't have many expectations of. Back then, distribution was different.
For sure.
And there was no internet, so.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like you were coming a lot farther than even some of your peers at the time in, really trying your hand out at DIYing this production.
And I suppose 10 years later, like there would have been more options for self-distribution and stuff, or just getting it out there somehow.
Right.
But instead it just, it didn't go anywhere, and I was fine with that. And I just saw it as a good first effort, and I would keep plugging away.
I mean, we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think, even in asking you that question about what is your retrospective opinion, I would hope that most filmmakers, have at best mixed feelings about their first attempt.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would find it embarrassing, but I would probably have a hard time not explaining all the reasons why it's not as good as it could have been. But I don't want to say anything harsh about anyone who contributed to it because, it is what it is. It was some dude making a movie like for almost no money.
Yeah. That's how I like it.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
It was I forget I can't remember what happened after that, but I was not discouraged. And of course the Slam Dance win was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I kept kind of pursuing stuff. And
well, what was the next milestone then?
So the next milestone, oh yeah, Too Much Sex played at a festival in New York.
Great. Did you go?
And I did.
Okay.
And it was very cool. That was fun.
What was that memory like? Did you talk to people? Did you get reception?
Honestly, it was my first time in New York.
Oh.
I go out there alone.
Uh-huh.
And God, it's all fuzzy. Honestly, like checking into like the 2-star shitty, like the New York experience is more to me than that. But it gets me to a funny story, which is that so somewhere along the line, I was on like a first or second date.
Yeah.
And a dude was like, "Wait, I recognize you." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, you made that film Too Much Sex that played in New York? I saw that. That was great." And that date turned out to be my first wife.
Oh, man.
And by the way, it's never happened since. But you can imagine, she was like, whoa, this guy's filmed. So it was kind of wild. I forgot that it played in New York, but so it was kind of wild. So someone
that
else
has to be a big, different audience from Houston.
Yeah, so someone else who saw Too Much Sex at a festival, a producer asked me to direct for her. Mm-hmm. And she had optioned a script. And I said, and now I got to be, oh, man, whatever. And so I said yes. You know, it was actually like my first paid gig in theory.
As a director. That's crazy. That's cool.
And the script was, I worked a lot on the script and did not take credit. And there was a lot of push and pull on that, but because most of the money was coming from the screenwriter. But to their credit, they were like, we did a reading of their version with actors who were getting lined up for it. Uh-huh. And they came to me afterwards and said, we should switch to your version.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I actually did. Oh, I was so clueless.
What?
That the producer who'd hired me to direct this thing handed me the script and said, if you want, you can do a little polish. And in one weekend, I rewrote the whole fucking thing. And I changed the structure, and I changed so much.
And so what do you mean you were clueless?
Well, I was clueless that you're not supposed to do that, especially when all the money's coming from the writer's side. So when the writer looked at this, and of course, the producer probably didn't look at my rewrite, probably just assumed, he just polished it up a little.
Sure.
So when they handed the script to the writer was like, motherfucker, what the fuck?
Right.
This dude just changed all my words, and she was pissed.
Sure.
And then the writer comes to me, and she was pissed. She's like, wait, you were just supposed to polish. She said you did a page one rewrite. And I'm like, well, by polish, I meant make better.
Yes.
So that was a whole thing. So it came together.
I mean, can you go into like arbitration with something like that when it's so independent?
It was just, no, I don't know. We just.
Yeah. How'd you hammer that out? How did you fix it? What ended up happening?
Well, she came to me after that table read of the original version.
Yeah.
And said, I think we should make your version. And then
the writer did.
The writer did.
Yeah.
The writer,
okay.
not the producer.
Wow.
The writer said, I totally get what you were doing.
That sounds magical.
She was a bright, smart, good writer. In fact, I do have one deep regret, which is she's like, you did such a good job with that. Can you give me notes on this? And she gave me another script. And and then I actually didn't get her notes.
Right.
So my name is probably mud to that person. What are you going to do?
I mean, we get busy. Goodness knows if everybody who asked me to read their script, God knows back from me. Yikes.
I know. But again, if I was a smarter person, I would have been like, oh, this person can raise money. I should be good friends with them.
Got it.
But not smart.
We all made mistakes.
And that grown. I'm never smart about what people can offer down the road. I'm always just like an idealist who's like, So anyway.
It just sounds like growing pains in the lessons that we learn.
For sure.
Because obviously you recognize it now and probably implemented, those changes in the future.
Well, yeah, I just don't create anymore, so I don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so yeah, let's keep rolling.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, so after your first feature film, again, when you have a first feature film, that's that's a title on the IMDb. That is the first credit to your name. So what do you consider your next? I don't want it to be like just your next creative endeavor, but the next kind of take on the timeline of.
Oh no! It was so that film that I talked about, the one
Walking Backwards.
No. So it was called. I guess I should just use the title because IMDb exists.
Okay.
If someone wanted to, there's 119 Jeff Howards on IMDb, but if you're dedicated enough, you can find. Should I name the? So the one I was hired to direct did get made.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and then
You
had its own
directed?
Yeah, I directed it. I directed it, and we shot my rewrite, but I did not take credit for that. Although there was rock music in, and I wrote the lyrics to those songs, so I actually got my name put in as the lyricist.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So in the credits, I actually, I said to the music supervisor, who was lovely, I said to her, I'm like, so, in the credits, for those 2 songs that the composer worked out, I'm like, I wrote the words for him. Like, can we say, lyrics by Jeff Howard, music by...
Yeah.
And she's like, sure. And I think I said something lame.
Sounds correct.
Yeah, but I said something like, I want credit for something I wrote, which was lame. I'm not above it. I'm not above being lame.
I think that's how arbitration works. You technically wrote those things, so you should be credited for it.
I should be credited.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that film had its festival run and was looked at for a long time, and then New Line released it on DVD.
Oh, great. Okay.
So I actually had the experience that this thing I directed was at Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Blockbuster. It was it was very funny. My niece, I think she was 8 or 9 at the time, maybe younger, and she's like, "Oh, Uncle Jeff, I saw your movie on the wall. It was your name is on this DVD at I forget which store she was at." And I was like, she thinks it's normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she doesn't know it's special.
She was not impressed. She was just like, your movie. Yeah, they have your movie at Blockbuster, and they have it here and they have it there. And I was like, you don't realize
how big of a
so
deal
I had a
it is.
joke at the time. Well, so to get to the finish line faster, instead of the joke I told my niece, or told everyone at the time, when that happened, and I think we had proof that they moved 500,000 units.
Oh.
I had a meeting at one of the big 3 agencies.
Okay.
Where the dude looked at the DVD and looked at me and said, "Yeah, this won't help you get another job."
From the appeal, from what his own personal perception on it was after watching it, do you know?
He was like, I like you and I believe in you, but just that, New Line, this film you directed being released by New Line Home Video doesn't mean anything.
Man, I still remember the New Line logo in the beginning of so many films.
Yeah. So when he said that to me, I was obviously already dating the woman I would marry for my first marriage, who is now just my friend. I'm not going to say anything, but something happens to someone, or at least something happened to me when I was getting engaged around that time, and I think I walked out of that meeting at UTA. Oh shit! I hadn't named the agency before. I was trying to be so smart. I walked out of UTA I don't fucking need this shit. I was like, I don't even need to get walking backwards on screen now. He just made it clear to me that so the joke that I skipped over was, I'm the most unsuccessful filmmaker in LA. Because everyone I knew who was trying to be a filmmaker, it's not like they had directed something that New Line Home Video put out. It's not like their shit was at Tower Records and Best Buy and Target and Walmart. So I was like, you would think, I had friends saying to me, shouldn't you have money? I'm like, yeah, no, I was supposed to get, 5% of profits, and there were no profits, of course, because they pretend there are none. But it wasn't about the money or anything. I was just the fact that that accomplishment didn't mean I would get to work again necessarily.
Yeah.
I was I literally just said, I'm done. And it was very freeing.
Okay.
To not want to do it anymore.
Oh, I know that feeling, yeah.
Yeah. So
to not be beholden to somebody's, not only their opinion, but, what they can do for you and what, you can grovel to them to do.
Yeah. And plus So if I was already engaged to wife one, that means it was around the year 2000-ish, 2001. So that means that was 11 years after college. So I was 11 years out of college, so a decade out of college, planning to get married. And I was like, yeah, I just want a real fucking job now.
Okay.
I was like, and it felt so good, actually.
Yeah.
And I had told everyone, the reason I did the math was I told everyone during those 11 years, because, you meet lots of people in LA who are also trying to make it, blah, blah, blah. And I always said, if you can quit, you should quit. Like, if you can, you should.
Yeah.
Because you should only be doing this indie film thing, or you should only be working in film if you have no choice. Like, if you can say to yourself, I can quit, do it. And I had actually walked out of that meeting and said, I can quit. I guess I should listen to myself and just, I didn't want it enough anymore.
Right. I mean, I suppose a lot of people do come to that realization, but I know what you mean about it being freeing, it being a weight off your chest. Even, did you continue your insomnia throughout your life?
It did actually go away somewhere in the 30s. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because when you get older, you're just a night owl.
Uh-huh.
and actually, when I was able to actually sort of construct a life where I would sleep from like 3 a.m. to noon. So then you're not an insomniac, you're just a night owl, right?
Right, yeah.
So I think I figured out that my body wanted to be nocturnal.
Yes.
Or mostly nocturnal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually think insomnia sometimes might just be you're a night person.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you can make that work for you, because obviously.
But when you're in high school and you have to be somewhere at 8:15 a.m., you're just fucked and you're sleeping through period one.
Yeah, right. So if you kind of, put down the camera and then continued on with your life, what happened next?
So I went, oddly enough, I ended up, some friends had started a toy company and I got involved with them and then moved from the toy company to a toy manufacturer where I think the job was VP of business development or whatever, but I was negotiating. My job was the licensing for movie toys. So oddly enough, adjacent. So all of a sudden I'm on the phone with like people at New Line about like, hey, we want to make an action figure based on blah, blah, blah. And I would like do the negotiation.
Right.
So, yeah. So that was me. So then I was in this toy world for 15 plus years. It's hard to say how long. And then, I mean, the quickest way to say it is like, and that went well financially. And
did you love it? The toys? I mean, I love toys. It's, talk about fantasy.
It's more actually I learned to appreciate it. I had not been a collector, but I learned to appreciate the art of it.
Yeah.
And always got along with the creatives. In fact, I got along better with the people in the sculpting room.
Yeah. Than
the other business people.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Those creative people. It was very cool. And by the way, in every art studio in the country where people are making commercial shit, on their desk is a million like personalized, brilliant, amazing things that you look at and go, oh man, if we could mass produce that, 17 people would appreciate it. Whatever. I mean, that's me being sardonic. But so yeah, I was still sort of connected to the arts through that, but surely purely on the business side.
Sure.
And then, honestly, I was involved in that.
If you were in the toy business for 15 years, that must have overlapped with your crazy travel.
Yes, well, that did. Yeah. So, wife one was a Hollywood travel agent.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So,
what does that mean?
That means that her clients were all agents and managers and lawyers in the entertainment industry, the kind of people who were willing to pay a travel agent like let someone like, here's your first class ticket. I'm billing you. And there was a $50 fee or whatever to do the ticket.
Got it.
Like she was in charge of their travel.
Got it.
Including some, and some actual actors and stars. So there was always, and she wanted me to not quit, by the way. When I quit writing, it did not go over well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she felt I should keep writing. And I was just so delighted to not be writing anymore. So actually, there was a point where I became a consultant in the toy industry so that I could try to write a script again.
Okay.
Because there was a fairly famous actor who kind of offhandedly said, if your husband wrote something that takes place in Hawaii, I'll do it. Because he loved Hawaii.
Okay.
Not afraid to say, it was Tim Roth.
Okay.
So I actually wrote a script with Tim Roth in mind. I started it. But you know what? You got to fucking love it if you're going to do it.
Sure.
And I was not in love with it anymore. I don't think I finished that script. I think I tried to take another older script of mine and adapt it to Hawaii for him.
Okay.
And whatever, it didn't happen. If that had happened, who knows? Maybe there would be no festivals. Because if I'd actually, made it as a filmmaker, then I don't think the festivals would have happened. So the toy thing survived. So then I became a consultant for these toy companies instead of a full-time employee because she just wanted to travel.
Got it.
And was doing well enough. By the time the internet came around, suddenly she was always working from home, but it had to be hardwired and all that.
Okay.
So once Wi-Fi and stuff existed, I know, like I'm talking about like pre-Wi-Fi,
You seem to be on like the cutting edge of a lot of companies and ways of doing things. It sounds like you got in there early at Slam Dance.
Oh my god!
New Line
I was so fucking. I had when people had Blackberries.
Yeah.
I believe Motorola. Everyone had the Motorola Flip, the Razr phone. Mm-hmm. Motorola came out with something called the Moto Q.
Okay.
And I figured out how to get in. And that was just Motorola's version of a BlackBerry. It had the whole keyboard on it and all that, and a small little screen. But I was actually able to connect that to, I had a little Dell computer, a tiny laptop. I forget what they called it. They called it a netbook.
Oh, yeah.
And you could hack this netbook and turn it into, and you could install the Apple Macintosh system on it. So I had a Hackintosh that I went on the road with my then wife, and we would when I say on the road, we would go on a 59, the longest trip was 59 days. Wow. We'd leave home and not come back for 59 days. So that meant there was a travel blog because every night I would sit down with my laptop. She would get to work on her laptop, doing what she had to do for her clients.
Yeah.
And I would upload all the pictures I took that day from I didn't have a phone with a camera at the time. Actually, I had an iPhone, probably, my first iPhone might have been our second or third long trip. Okay. Maybe it was the first. But, and I would write out the day and show pictures. I'm about to reveal something. And write it up and do a little research on Wikipedia if I needed it, and tell the history of where we were.
Oh, yeah.
So years earlier, I had reserved. I always did this dumb thing where I would go on and I would reserve web pages.
Oh,
URLs.
yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So not proud to say I had verylargebreasts.com. I thought that was going to turn into a lot of money, but I just couldn't. But I at one point.
And the point was to sell it to people who wanted it?
No, the point was to do something fun with it someday.
Oh, okay.
And host a website. So my attitude towards blogging, I guess it's just being self-effacing. It was called Colossal Waste.
Right.
Colossalwaste.com. I had. So I turned colossalwaste.com into my travel blog. And what I did was I created a fucking logo and then put under the logo, so I did this thing where I would always point to stuff on camera. Like I point like, here's what the thing I want you to notice. So I pulled my finger out of that and made a logo out of my finger pointing, my hand pointing, and then it said, "A life without travel is a colossal waste."
Oh.
So I tried to make it positive,
yeah,
but I was still calling it a colossal waste.
Right. I don't like, I think that's tongue in cheek. I really like that, actually.
Yeah. So this still exists if you go to blog. I think it's colossalwaste.blogspot.com. I gave up the Colossal Waste URL. I had used it was all on the Blogger platform that Google owned.
Okay.
So it was called Blogger, but they were using the URL Blogspot for it because I think they combined both those companies. So anyway, so my travel blog is actually still there. Like when I want to recommend a restaurant in Italy or Prague or something, like every meal I ate, every museum, I was like the dude taking pictures in every museum. So I was like a travel blogger for a minute. And it was funny because some of her clients who were like Hollywood people were like, maybe you should do a travel show. And one guy's like, no, you should just be a history teacher, man. I'm learning so much history with your traveling. So it was, I don't know. So nothing came of it.
Well, I mean, it sounded like your own, another form of your expression. And
it was absolutely a creative outlet.
Yeah.
It really was, yeah.
And I must know, tell me at least 2 really memorable meals or restaurants that you
the best meal I've ever had was in Parma, Italy.
Okay.
A drive from the west side of Italy, I believe it was Portofino side, and I'm blanking on the city right next to Portofino where we actually stayed. And then it was 2 couples, us and actually our friends who got married. We were traveling with a gay couple who couldn't get married in the U.S. at the time, so they got married in Italy.
That's good.
And the 4 of us drove from that side to Rimini, which is like the Riviera of Italy. That's all beaches opposite, Slovenia.
Okay.
That's it. So we drove across Italy, and so we were going to be in Parma around lunchtime. So I hopped on my phone and Googled best lunch in Parma, and I could bring it up on my phone right now because it's on the blog. But Parma I'm a Parmesan cheese addict. So Parma, the Parmesan cheese in Parma, like, have you heard the thing like in Italy, the stuff they export is the stuff that's not good enough for Italians?
Right, I have heard that. Sometimes you don't even get real olive oil.
Yeah, so, and that's where, of course, prosciutto is Parma ham.
Okay.
So we stopped and we had the most amazing meal of my life in Parma. And it's an industrial town. I mean, it's a town that's about industry. It's like they produce shit. It's not a pretty place to visit at all.
Okay. What'd you eat?
Oh, my God. Well, first, instead of a bowl of bread, they bring you a bowl of chunks of Parmesan cheese.
Oh, my God.
And then we got the lemon with prosciutto on it. Prosciutto e limone or whatever. Cantaloupe. And it was the best cheese I'd ever eaten in my life. I have a picture of myself holding the cheese. The most beautiful thing I ever saw. and then turkey wrapped in a layer of it was turkey wrapped around a chunk of cheese. Like they took a chunk of Parmesan and then they had super pounded thin turkey that they wrapped around the cheese and then cooked in this sauce.
Oh my God, I'm drooling.
And then there's every dish was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good. So yeah, that's one of the best meals of my life. And I feel like I should not pick another one in Italy. Because you said 2 meals?
Yeah, I wanted to hear the contrast of something that was maybe a little bit different, even if it's like a dessert or maybe even a really good cocktail.
So hard not to just focus on Italy.
You've been to so many places.
I know. I guess I'll just go with Thailand.
Okay.
Because amazingly, the best Thai food in the U.S. or in L.A. is honestly a lot like the food in Thailand.
Oh.
It's just better. Like it's funny because Thai food, you know how like most foods got corrupted when they came here?
Yes.
But the Thai people who immigrated to America by then America was already into ethnic foods.
Okay.
So they didn't have to change it for us that much.
Okay.
But I had an amazing, amazing Thai meal in, I think it was Chiang Mai, which is in the north of, over by the, I think there's Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai, I forget. So it was amazing, and there were like elephants hanging out.
That's great.
That's pretty good. Although maybe I should say there's an amazing meal in South Africa. And by the way, like the reason I was having amazing meals is I was traveling with a 5-star travel agent.
Yeah.
Like a travel agent, she would put all these rich people in 5-star resorts. So we had to stay there too, so she could survey the resort.
I see.
And they'd give her 2 free nights, and we'd stay 5, and that's how we ended up in debt. Nothing like,
but such a rich life.
oh my God! I got to
it.
see how the 0.01% live. And they live well. They live really well.
So we must be coming up on the time where the first seeds of the film festivals came about.
We're getting close. Yeah. Marriage ended.
Marriage ended. Okay.
Amicably. Enough. And then I reconnected with this lovely person I had dated in 1996 and fell in love again. And she was against getting married because we had both been in a fairly crummy. My marriage was highly rewarding personally as seeing the world and all that. But we were not happy together.
Okay.
We weren't compatible as more than friends. And actually, being married to a best friend sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Because deep down, there has to be intimacy too.
Sure.
And we were just not intimate.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see each other that way.
Right. Yeah.
So funny. It was funny because everyone thought we were swingers. Because we were like openly sexual people and talk about, and then they thought we were the wildest couple. I'm like, dude, we've been celibate for like 3 years, and you think we're screwing all around the planet.
Oh,
and it was the opposite, right?
Okay.
Thank God she doesn't know about this podcast. So with the new life and like moving forward, I honestly can't tell you what happened in my brain that made it work, because friends all along had always said to me, you should start a film festival.
Okay.
And I always said, I don't know why you're saying that.
Okay.
And they say, you should start a film festival. I don't know why you're saying that.
Why were they saying it? You must have asked them and they must have answered.
Well, I was involved in a screenplay contest
Okay.
and stuff. And so I was sort of, I never said, see, this is the lack of, I know this sounds funny as the guy who normally interviews people on this podcast, but I'm actually not. On the podcast, I love to be inquisitive and ask people things. In real life, you have to tell me. I'm not going to pull anything out of you. I leave people alone, actually.
Okay.
So like every time someone said you should run a film festival, I never said, why you say that?
Okay.
I just said no.
Okay.
I just said, like, honestly, so John Fitzgerald of Slam Dance was the only nice person I met. Ever on the festival circuit. In fact,
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard this before, but I had an experience with the people at Slam Dance who came after him, where I went back to Slam Dance the next year.
Okay.
And I bought tickets to a screening, and I stopped by like the main whatever table, and I said, hey, I want to say hi. I'm the guy who won the screenplay contest last year here. And festival runner looked me in the eyes and said, what do you want? Like in an angrier tone than that. Maybe he was having the worst day and like a bunch of people just yelled at him and he was not able to be nice to me. But it was fucked up.
Yeah.
And other people I met were either turned out to be like the charlatan con artist type. So I had a very bad impression of actually festival runners, except for John Fitzgerald, who I'm happy to keep mentioning.
Yeah.
By the way, I know he's doing something else now, and every once in a while I get an email from him, and every once in a while I respond and go, I just want you to know you inspired me. In 1997, January 1997. Even though someone at Slam Dance misspelled the word January on my certificate.
Oh, great.
My awards. Because back then, you didn't get a PDF. You actually got something physical that you could hang on the wall.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So people kept saying that. And then I don't know why, but in 2016, someone said it. And I said, yeah, I think so. And I just talked to a couple people I knew, and they were game to start a festival. And it was in the driveway in front of this house that we were like arguing about possible names.
Okay.
And I wanted Sherman Oaks Film Festival because if one lives in the LA area and in the suburb of the San Fernando Valley, you know there's a Burbank and a Studio City and an Encino and a Tarzana and a Valley Film. Every neighborhood in this damn area had a film festival except Sherman Oaks.
Oh.
And I'm a Sherman Oaksian.
Yeah.
So I wanted my neighborhood to have one. And my two partners were like, nah, no one's heard of Sherman Oaks. That's dumb. It's got to be named after LA or Hollywood. I'm like, well, I don't want to use the name Hollywood.
No.
And so actually it was in that driveway. I said, how about, we kept throwing out possible names. And I said, how about Film Invasion? And they were like, you think it'd be sci-fi? Too sci-fi? I'm like, no, it's still, it's still like films coming at you.
Yeah.
And they're like, how about Film Invasion Hollywood? I'm like, how about Film Invasion Los Angeles? Because
Yeah.
I thought Film Invasion Hollywood would be too cheesy.
Yeah,
Just because
sure.
we knew we weren't going to rent a theater in Hollywood proper.
Right,
but
right.
in the LA area.
Sure.
And so they were like, full steam ahead, Film Invasion Los Angeles. And then the next day I was like in the shower and I said to myself, why not just do both names and see which does better?
Oh.
So the first
Wow.
year in 2016, I believe we did both festivals.
Same like kind of winter summer kind of deal?
No, they were 3 months apart because we were just like A/B testing the names.
Got it.
And it turned out that Film Invasion Los Angeles got more submissions from like outside the LA area.
Uh-huh.
And Sherman Oaks got more local support.
Sure.
So then I just, we learned something very important, which is my lovely partners. They were more in it for the money.
Okay.
And we discovered from the first year, where with 2 festivals in 3 months, you lose money at this. That's why they're all nonprofits.
Yeah.
So they all wanted to so they backed out and I took over and I said, okay, I by the way, I didn't mention that literally like the first festival, the Film Invasion LA came first. And like, there was a health problem with my father. So I actually wasn't a part of the jury as much.
Okay.
And I got to the theater and I loved some of what I saw and I didn't love some of what I saw. And I was doing all the Q&As, and doing a Q&A for something you didn't love is tough. Mm-hmm. But I felt head over heels for it. I was just like, this is every person who had, I can't even name, I have one friend and she reminds me when I told her I was doing the festival, she's like, I've been telling you to do that for years. Why didn't you listen to me? If you listened to me, you would have done it 5 years ago.
Okay.
So she was jokingly mad at me for finally doing it and giving someone else, other people credit.
Okay.
But literally that first, it was just a Friday, Saturday and Sunday at a little theater in Sherman Oaks. And I was like, I just loved it.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And I love the film and I love the people.
Right.
And the people were nice. I didn't bother mentioning that when I was at festivals in the 90s, everyone was kind of a prick. Because
What does a prick look like to you at a film festival? What are they like? They're fake, or they don't want to talk?
Because Kevin Smith and Ed Burns had lunches with Harvey Weinstein the day after their films played at a big festival that set them up for like life as a filmmaker. Everyone was aiming for that. And everyone was they weren't on the festival circuit because they had a story they needed to tell. They were trying to strike it rich. And so it was just about competition. And it was just about like, everyone was rooting against each other.
Right.
No one was supporting each other. And no one was making their films for the right reasons. I kind of feel like I made mine for the right reasons. I just needed to tell the story. Apparently the poor sexual health of the brother and sister I lived with for 2 years was in me, and I needed to get that story out.
Yeah.
That's very altruistic. I'm probably not true, but
No, it sounds good.
so I was, that's another thing that turned me off of the festival circuit in the late 90s was the fact that everyone was there to get rid, it was just seen as the doorway to Hollywood.
Sure.
And now everyone knows it's not.
Right.
It's just not. I can name 5 people I know. Before I was even, I know so many people who got into Sundance and had their screening and nothing happened.
Sure.
And now everyone's aware of that.
Including me. I'm probably on that list.
Yeah. So it's like, so the expectations are different. Therefore, the competition, therefore, filmmakers are supporting each other now. And it's really a community of people. But I am aware that, like, when I go on and on about indie, I'm like, it is true that I think most of the people I'm meeting at the festivals who I adore for being indie filmmakers do want to be they do want to make studio films.
I mean, if it's the difference between making a living out of it or struggling with it as a hobby for the rest of your life, then I'm sure that people would like the former.
Yeah, for sure.
To some degree.
For sure. But so to get back on course, the festivals just grew. Because then year 2 we made them better.
Yeah.
And they just kept getting better, figuring out how to make them better and better and better. And,
Tell me about let's like peek behind the curtain a little bit. I mean, so many people listening to this are filmmakers. I mean, I would say probably all of them. And they are on the front, the front end of all these film festivals. So tell me about some of the alterations that you made over the years to make your film festival what it is, say things that you learned or saw from year 1 to 2 to 3 that you just kept implementing to make better. Give us some examples.
Among the things I personally learned was I had idealism about genres and categories, and that I didn't want them. I just wanted film is film. Mm-hmm. Because I lived in a stupid little bubble. Once I realized, so I learned that we needed a huge fucking number of categories because someone with a special, endearing, unusual film doesn't want to submit to a festival. In other words, we added art house experimental. And all of a sudden I got people with more artsy work felt comfortable paying a small fee to submit, right? Because you are asking someone to pay a fee to submit. Uh-huh. And if you're just comedy, drama, horror, you know what I mean? So I kept learning, like, add more and more categories so that we can get those special films.
Nice. Good thinking.
So that was a big one.
I mean, it must be like comparing apples to oranges when it comes to even judging, that's such a broad, if you tried to judge it on just a single line of quality.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I smile because I still, as a juror, I just watch a film.
Right.
And I just rate it 1 to 10 as a film. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if they say it's a comedy and I don't laugh, but I find it really wonderfully made. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. I sometimes have arguments with jurors where they're like, this one was good, but it wasn't really horror. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Uh-huh. It's just, if it's really good, we'll tell them we're switching you to drama. It's not that we're looking for the best drama in a drama category and the best horror in a horror category. We're looking for the best films, period.
Sure.
And I always joke with people, like, if the top 60 films submitted for December's 10th anniversary Sherman Oaks Film Festival, if the 60 best films are horror, then it's going to be an all horror festival.
Nice.
Because we're not going to pull up, inferior or, if they're noticeably, we're not going to play, well, let's show you get it.
The best drama, but
we're showing the best films.
Yeah.
Showing the best films. And the categories are really just to make people comfortable submitting and to allow us to give awards in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of changes you implemented from feedback of the actual filmmakers that showed? Because we know that Film Freeway does have a review system, and I was just curious if like you guys were just doing it pretty right for pretty much the whole time, or if like you really had epiphanies from talking to the filmmakers.
God, I wish I could think of examples. I mean, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Always, always. In fact, when I started, so the two festivals started in 2016. So when this podcast started in August 2017, that means it started in year 2 in between Film Invasion and Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
So that means, and honestly, the podcast, it wasn't the reason. The reason for the podcast was just because we do 15-minute Q&As, which everyone tells me are longer than everywhere else. But to me, it's still scratching the surface. And I always joke that, like, we have to let the audience ask dumb questions. Like, sometimes I'm like, you're derailing. This person has so many interesting things, and you just asked them what their budget was or whatever. But so during the podcast is when I would really get the feedback.
Dig in it. Oh, yeah.
And so I can't name, and I would even ask people, like, what do you think? You know, I have a thing I say too often, which is, okay, you're a focus group of 1.
Yeah.
And do you think, you know, like, do you think the theater wanted us to do Saturday, Sunday, when we went from 2 days to 3 to 4, they thought we'd be better off doing Saturday, Sunday, 5 days off, Saturday, Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And so like I was like asking filmmakers what they thought of that.
Yeah.
And they all said, all together so we can watch. Because, like, you know, we can't, now you're asking for 2 of my weekends.
Yes. Okay.
And I was like, I get it. So that's why we kept it all together after I think we did 2 weekends in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
And then like, so like, you know, so we listened about stuff like that and even listened, I think.
That's a good example.
Yeah, that is a good example. And I think even like with the mixers, got a lot of feedback early about how key that was. And I think that's why we added a closing mixer too.
Yeah.
Was
after all the films are done.
Yeah, because I was all into the opening night mixer because I don't know when I realized it, but I realized that everyone meeting the night before the festival begins means they attend each other's screenings more often.
Yes.
Whereas if you haven't met someone, you're a lot less likely to go.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, even at a travel kind of festival where you're going and staying in a hotel, that's especially the case because certain people have come to watch their film with each other, you know? And so if somebody didn't make the trek, there's no one to talk to after about their film, ask questions, you know, commiserate and stuff like that.
And deep down, inertia is a powerful thing, and a body at rest stays at rest. Mm-hmm. And to get you up and into a theater, having met the person makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge.
Plus peer pressure. You know?
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go to theirs, they'll come to yours. Like, so I like creating that community with the opening night, but then everyone's like, so the one thing I haven't, so then the closing night was exactly what you said. People were like, but we want one at the end. A couple people said to me, we want one at the end. So where we can talk after seeing each other's work. And then the reason why there's a bi-monthly mixer related is because several people said at the closing mixer, we really like, this is such a good mixer and such a good, you know, such good people at this festival. Like, you really need to do it throughout the year.
And I think that's a perfect amount of timing. Like, I think a monthly mixer would be like, I'm sick of these people. And also you might just push it off to the next month. But these 6 times a year makes it really quite special that you have these, you know, these very few but not one opportunity to talk to people.
Well, for the first year and a half, it was monthly, and that fucked up attendance.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what you learned.
Yeah, I learned. But it was, to their credit, this reveals that I can be a bit of a dictator. I was like, you want a monthly mixer? You do it. Uh-huh. And so
a lot
actually
of work
5
to
of them
ask of someone.
volunteered, and there was a committee.
Okay.
And we put the committee together, and the goal of the committee was to pick a venue each month.
Okay.
Because they
Oh, that's
wanted it to be a
fun.
traveling feast around, because like we got to have one on the west side for those people, one in Hollywood for those people, one
Do
in
you
the
still
valley.
do that? Because this is my first endeavor into
So the
mixers.
answer is, then when we moved out to Glendale for the theater,
Yeah.
the theater's bar is so conducive to it.
Yeah.
And we ran into a weird problem here in LA, which is when you call up a bar in Culver City, or
Yeah.
you go in person. Actually, I went in person with a committee member, and we're like, hey, we, around 25, 30 people, in a couple weeks, we're looking for somewhere to hang out. Every establishment, every one of them said to us, well, if you give us a credit card, we'll pre-charge you $1,500 or $25. We'll pre-charge you, and then if we sell enough food and drink, we refund it. But if you want to have an event here, we want to pre-charge you.
Right.
And I was like, but if I just invited 20 friends here for my birthday next week,
Right.
you would serve us.
Right.
So telling you in advance, you're trying to get money out of a nonprofit. You want me to give you the nonprofit's credit card? Fuck you.
Right.
And on top of it, it created a problem because we did a couple where we didn't tell the bar.
Yeah.
And then people would call the bar and say, hey, I'm coming to the event tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't promote an event
Right.
and put in that promotion,
Don't tell the bar.
don't tell the bar we're doing this. So, exactly, don't tell the bar.
No.
So that's why, honestly, so then look is really good to us, and they appreciate us bringing them a crowd into their bar because their drinks are expensive. So they appreciate that. So actually, they do us favors when the festivals come around. They do some really nice extra help because we're bringing them a little income throughout the year. So now it's at Look permanently, and there's no committee.
Okay. So you've released them of their duties.
Yeah, kind of, because now there's no decisions to be made.
Right.
It was just 7 or 8 p.m. And the answer is some people wanted 7 p.m. because that's when like mixers normally start. But just based on traffic and shit, now it's just 8 p.m. because it's died down more. And actually, when they do a private screening, it always starts at 8, which means when Look Cinemas in Glendale has a private screening, it'll be 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And so the bar is full. From 7:30 to 8, and then they all file in.
Yes.
And then our people file in.
Nice.
Because we had a couple mixers there where we ran into...
Got it.
That's why we moved from Thursday to Wednesday this week. But so anyway, that was
awesome.
the reason for the change. So 8 p.m. also like saves us from like... Because like there was one time when like there was an Armenian premiere and like, there's like 80 Armenian people like hanging out in suits and like they really dress to the nines because Glendale's their part of town, and like our filmmakers were trying to show up, and like they couldn't even get to the bar.
Sure.
They couldn't even get into the room really. So that's when I realized. So anyway.
So you really pinned that one down. You learned from the history of going there and doing these kinds of mixers exactly what to do. Yeah,
and the other thing is, my heart's kind of on the outside of my body, and I sit there, and if attendance sucks, I my little heart weeps, and when I saw filmmakers, I saw people I knew like come in, look at this crowded bar, try to get in, give up and leave. I was like, oh my God, like. We ended up with like 8 people once they finally cleared out and went to their screening because their screening was like later. Yes. Or we might have said 7. Yeah, right. Yeah, we said 7 and they cleared out at 8. And I was just like, oh my God, people drove to Glendale and they came and went. Yeah. So I was like, no more. So we figured this one out. Like when it comes to the festival in general, when did it become at Look? Or was it always at Look? Did you transition there eventually? Yeah, Look pursued us. Look wooed us, and we moved to Look in 2022. Am I right? Maybe it was
From where?
What
if you
year
could
is this?
say?
2023 we started there with Film Invasion.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty
We moved
recent.
Film Invasion there first.
Okay.
And then Sherman Oaks followed right after that because it went so well.
Where was it before, if I can ask, just to get the history?
Yeah, it was a cute little playhouse in Sherman Oaks called the Whitefire Theater.
Oh, I've heard of it, actually.
Yeah, it's a great little place. In fact, a sweet thing about that is so many actors would come in and be like, this is where I had my first, when I moved to LA, this is where I was in a play here. My first play in LA was here. It's a nice, cute little 90-seater, but the projection is not quite professional.
Sure.
It's just, it's like a prosumer projector like you'd have in a rich person's house if they have a screening room.
I mean,
and look like
is so high tech. It's so brand new. At least it seems like that to me. In fact, when I got into Sherman Oaks, I was so delighted that it was there because I actually had I rented out one of the rooms myself and screened Ben Carlucci's in my first feature there. And it was my birthday present to myself. Kinda.
Nice.
Yeah. I charged my friends like 12 or $15 each just to cover that big, cost to rent out the theater for the day. And, it was the best gift they could have given me. My friends gave it to me, technically.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah, it's such a great venue. In fact, I would argue that it's one of the best theaters in the LA area.
I mean, filmmakers, if you are, and I looked all around to find a venue for this. I looked at a lot of websites, prices and capacities and all the accoutrements that come with that kind of thing. And it was because I saw somebody else's indie film there that they just invited me. They didn't even charge anyone. I was like, I don't want to pay $800 to do this. So filmmakers, if you really want a nice establishment that serves food while you eat, dinner and a movie, consider Glendale. This is a shout out to them.
Yeah, they do, and it's the math makes sense, right? They're trying to sell food and drink, and they know that festivals and private screenings do better than Hollywood films now because public doesn't really go to Hollywood films like they used to.
Oh, I didn't really know that.
Yeah, that's why they pursued. I was like, I really don't think we can move out there.
Okay.
And then I looked at, and then they pursued us, and I think I went out there with one other person the first time, and then I went back again, and looked at the facilities and went, oh, we got to do this.
Yeah.
It's just nice. A better theater.
It's really nice. Check it out, guys, if you want to see a cool theater that will rent out their screen to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting into the weeds of both of these festivals now. Tell me about the milestones when it comes to the festivals, things that we talked about the first couple years and learning about filmmakers' preferences, the kinds of filmmakers you met. Did you find some really great, relationships? Did you develop some really great relationships with the local filmmakers? Like any in mind, or a general, thesis when it comes to meeting the kind of people who come to your festival?
I mean, if you're asking if I made friends,
yeah,
in a way,
yeah. Not only that, but what did you learn about the types of people that you accept into your festival, the types of filmmakers?
I may not have learned much, but I have learned. I really have. All I can really say is that because I do the podcast as well and invite everyone who's in the festival gets invited onto it, that I get to know people a little better.
That's wrapping that all into one.
Yeah,
kind of podcast
and so I see, and so I get to know them a little bit, and it helps the festival a little, obviously. I was going to say, when you said turning points or landmarks, I forget which term you used. Milestone. Thank you. The big milestone was Sherman Oaks was first. It popped onto the Film Freeway 100 Best Reviewed list.
Absolutely.
And when that happened, submissions doubled.
Oh, yes. That's great.
And that's when we could start affording to do more things, too.
Great.
And put more money back into it and staff up more and blah, blah, blah. And then it became important that Film Invasion get in on that list, too. And and it did.
Yes.
And so far, they've stayed there.
Yeah.
I know I worry because like if they ever drop out, it'd be the end. But
I mean, honestly, once it gains that reputation, it is a flag that I think that you can wave for quite a few years just because you got there once, and once your name is now on the map, people know it.
yeah. But I mean, but if we keep doing things right,
right.
then we'll stay, right? Because the key is we get, and I do admit, maybe I shouldn't say it now. Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
No, I mean,
okay.
yeah, we just, well, whatever. It's basic. We just ask people.
Yeah.
If you haven't written a review, please do.
Yes.
It makes a big difference.
And then obviously people are sending in really great reviews. What's one of the compliments that you receive the most from filmmakers?
I think, I don't know, the one I like reading the most is just when people say like that you can tell the people really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I wrote.
It is funny because the first couple years I never got mentioned. Now I get mentioned a lot in the reviews.
You make yourself very, very available and very personable.
Yes,
to
yeah.
everybody.
Although I think it's going to change because...
Why?
Well, because I'm like the last Sherman Oaks, I only did half the Q&As.
Yes, well, yes.
And then, and you happened to choose to do the podcast, so you got to know me better, and you spoke to me at the festival.
Yeah.
But, there's actually people who came and went to the directors I didn't meet.
Right.
That had never happened before.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So the next film invasion, I think we're going to do 3 screens.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be 3 people running Q&As.
Yeah.
Because I still feel the person so this is something I feel strongly about, and I don't think many festivals do it, which is the person moderating the Q&As can't walk in from the hallway after the films end. They've got to sit there with the audience and watch the films with the audience and experience it with the audience.
Yeah.
And most festivals I've been to, just a staff member comes down and does a standard.
Yes. Yes.
So because of that, I can only do one.
Right.
So the next film invasion, I'm only going to do 1/3 of the Q&As.
Right.
So even fewer people are going to meet me. So that just means that the other people have to be likable too.
And actually, this is a question that just arose. You have expanded the days, the amount of films because you're getting more. Is that just the simple answer, or is there more to it than that?
The simple answer is that heart on the outside of my chest thing. Uh-huh. Like it was pretty painful before. When we got to 6 days, we went 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 6, and somewhere around 6, it became clear first of all that
6 days.
Yeah, like Sherman Oaks had screenings Tuesday through Sunday.
Wow. I honestly, that sounds crazy to me.
And it's too hard for the staff to staff up for 6 days. No one can attend for 6 days.
No.
And yeah.
Is any festival
but
go
the thing,
long?
but the reason to do it like that,
Sundance,
other festivals go for a week or 2 even. But the thing is rejecting it's really hard. It's really hard. And when, no matter how many days you rent at the theater, you're going to leave out films there's going to be films that don't make it that I personally love, that the rest of the jury maybe loved less. But yeah, I'm just kind of glutton for films. And I also think that's probably another thing that helps us be in the top 100 is choosing more great films, is more good reviews.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, well, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been to a few festivals where a review was that it was low quality. It was a waste of people's time to kind of see, lower level stuff, whether that's on the AV quality of the films or really the depth of the writing and the performing. I mean, it's almost objective that going to Sherman Oaks, I can't speak for Film Invasion, I haven't been there yet, that I I was blown away by everything that I saw. I was incredibly impressed by the blocks that I was sitting in. And then if you guys don't know something about these festivals is that they don't, as much as we're talking about including a lot of films, they're not packing the blocks with a crazy number of films. They really do take their time on showcasing something, giving it room to breathe, and the time for the filmmaker to talk about their work and how they got there and how they did it.
Yeah, because the philosophy is if you're just going to walk into a theater, watch the film, and walk out without discussing it, you might as well watch it at home.
Right.
Like, this is about community. This is about people being together and celebrating it. Yeah, and I actually am proud. Like, when the theater, in a 2-hour block, I think in terms of 2-hour blocks as a programmer.
Yeah.
And that means you have an hour and 40 minutes, and then you have 20 minutes to
Yes.
get people in and out. In that hour 40, I want there to be 40 minutes of films and 1 hour of discussion.
Yeah. Wow.
Because if you have 4 shorts, this is when you do a shorts block. Mm-hmm. It's easier when it's a feature because then you have a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to rush those filmmakers.
No.
Yeah. And that's it's worth it. I don't know.
Is there anything, since we're talking about how far these festivals have come, is there anything that's going to change for next year? For these upcoming festivals?
And then just the thing that's changing is something that won't feel like a change. You witnessed Sherman Oaks Film Festival. That was the first year we finally held panels.
Ah, yes.
And everyone was always asking for panels.
Yeah.
And I always responded, do you know how fucking expensive theater rental is? Like, we cannot. It was always me standing in the way of panels because we can show more films. But being on 2 screens at once, finally, that was the first.
Okay.
It finally felt like, okay, we can give an hour in each theater to a panel. And so the next one, there will be probably 3 one-hour panels. Because.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard not to. It's really hard for me personally to not. I was close to canceling. I was almost hoping a panel would get canceled so I could show more films.
Okay.
Because there's. But I always have this spreadsheet, and I always know what the next 3 films are that I can add if we could.
I see.
Or if someone drops out, or, we actually do that thing where if we ask everyone if they can do a Q&A.
Yeah.
And so when the people from Germany who made this amazing film Factory Drop emailed, we can't make it, we're not going to have a Q&A. I was like, don't worry about it. And then we were able to put in another.
Right.
Once 2 Q&As don't happen, then that's 2 15-minute things.
Right.
So now we can add another film and have a Q&A for it. So we actually got 2 weeks. Within 3 weeks of the festival, we added 2 or 3 more shorts. Because the time opened up.
Right.
So that's how that's how anal I am about showing as many films. So it was tough at first, but man, people love the panels. So so we're gonna have to probably do similar ones again.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears just a little bit, we talked about the festivals, but like we kept bringing up, something so adjacent to that is this podcast. And you've talked to so many people. Do you see any kind of running thread? Because you must hear things repeated hundreds of times when it comes to either hearing the origin story and how people came about, or maybe even down to some of the shortcomings or some of the neuroticisms that we all share. Is there something that you could kind of consolidate when it comes to all these filmmakers, something that you see across the board, not even for every single person, but something that shows up a lot that unites us all?
I think the answer is no, but
okay.
And I probably should have, if I hadn't had such a busy morning, I might have sat down and calculated how many people have done the podcast and this and that. But of the, let's say 215 people who've sat where I'm sitting right now, I can say it's like a Venn diagram, right? And in the center of the Venn diagram, filmmaker, and then on the outside there's visual arts people who got like yourself got involved in painting first. There's people who got involved in acting first. There's people who were just writing first. There's people who started with literally just cameras or photography first. There's I can't say how many, but but you can see like, oh, this is one of the, this person came to it for storytelling. This person came through it for visuals. This person came to it for pure expression.
Right.
So there's so I think there's maybe genres of filmmaker or categories of filmmaker to answer that, but I don't think there's anything that unites everyone.
No, we're all
except film
flavors.
itself, maybe. Mm-hmm. And even then, sometimes you get the sense some people are like, "Oh no, I'd rather be, doing some other visual art, but this is the easiest one to share."
Yeah,
maybe.
Even if we're backtracking a little bit, was there anything you wanted to cover before we get to the ultimate questions of your favorite movies?
Oh, damn. We'll do that.
Yes, of course we're going to do that. We cannot leave this podcast without doing that.
No, I came with an open mind. So as interviewee, no, there's nothing I felt like
I think that's crucial to the story of Jeff.
Although I'll say there would be no film festivals.
Yeah.
Were it not for the person we can hear in the next room. Uh-huh. They are a patron of the arts.
Yeah.
And couldn't be more amazing about that.
Yes.
Because there would be no festivals if I hadn't found a wonderful life partner.
Yeah.
For the second time around.
Yes. That's wonderful to hear. All right. Jeff, thanks for sitting down with me to talk about how you came to be the person you are today, the artist you are today, the curator, the programmer, all of your titles. I'm so happy to know a little bit more, and we're going to move on next to some film recommendations. So don't go away, guys. All right, Jeff, give me your top 3 movies of all time.
Oh, geez. So I say, oh, geez, because I always, the funny thing is when I ask it, I always say, name 3 favorites. They don't have to be the best ever.
Oh,
just 3 favorites. But these are the 3 best films ever made.
Okay.
And now I finally, because it's being recorded, I finally have to decide on that last one. So number 1, Brazil.
Okay.
By Terry Gilliam. And I have a Terry Gilliam story. Number 2, a very short story. Number 2, The Graduate.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hard for me not to keep that on there. And number 3, if I'd answered the question at age 25 or age 30, number 3 would have been either 2001 or Dr. Strangelove. But I think because I snuck those in there, I can knock them down and put Children of Men in as my 3rd favorite of all time. Because I just think it's too fucking perfect not to have on there.
Very impactful.
So there.
Yeah.
I kept wondering if Children of Men would be able to push its way in. Because, by the way, Brazil was those were my 3. If I'd stuck with 2001, it would have been my 3 favorites. Like, if you'd asked me this question when I was 19,
What's your Terry Gilliam story?
I was at Telluride Film Festival with the first wife, and so we were in a really nice fucking hotel. And we were there because that film I directed that premiered at the film I directed that New Line put out was actually showing at a festival tangential to. It was not. I was actually. This is a funny story. I won't bother. So we were there at Telluride, and I get on the elevator. We get on the elevator, and it goes down 1 floor, and the doors open, and Terry Gilliam walks in.
Uh-huh.
And I've been a fan of Monty Python since age 12 or 13. So I was like a 25, 30-year fan at this point.
Wow.
And I just like didn't speak the whole ride. And like, I doubt he obviously at a film festival he's going to get recognized. But I really just should have said something. But I didn't. But I was like awestruck. It's funny because what I didn't share is that I grew up in Studio City and I worked at Big 5 Sporting Goods and worked the shoe department junior and senior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And so I sold shoes to Tom Hanks and Tony Danza, Charles Grodin. And
Whoa.
so I was never starstruck, right? Like you grew up in
Okay.
LA and the rule is, I treat them like they're normal people.
Sure.
You know, by the way, Tom Hanks had not made a movie yet.
Got it.
He was the guy from Bosom Buddies.
Got it.
So that's, have to make sure that's clear. But so I had that thing where I never acknowledged somebody who's famous. But now like I realize like an artist like Terry Gilliam really deserved, like, if I said something meaningful, I mean, whatever, it's not on me to do that. But if I just said, I just find your films brilliant, and you're one of my favorite. He would have been like, okay, cool, thanks, and I would have said, and by the way, like the Python animations were the shit, and that movie you made in the middle of Meaning of Life, fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
So anyway, because that's how he got started directing. My Terry Gilliam story is I was chicken shit to talk to him.
Maybe you'll get another chance. I've been running into lots of coincidences lately. I think it can happen.
Maybe. And now he hasn't made a film for a long time.
There we go. So he'll be excited for somebody to recognize him in his older age. Okay, so give me an underrated film if none of those fall under that category.
So my underrated, I think, has to be, I guess I'll go with this, is Miller's Crossing. Mm-hmm. Because that film would have been in the top 3 probably if I didn't know I could make it underrated, because it was the third Coen Brothers film after first Blood Simple, then Raising Arizona, then Miller's Crossing. I think Miller's Crossing is one of the best films ever made in the history of humanity. And I meet people all the time who haven't even seen it.
Right.
Let alone realize that it's the best Coen Brothers movie. Let alone that it's one of the best movies ever made.
Oh, man.
Like, so everything about, so I find that to be, so I'm going to make that underrated.
Nice. Okay, how about overrated? Let's talk some shit.
So I'm going to stick with the Coens.
Oh, okay.
Because
you just give them such a compliment.
Another film. So yeah, because their work is significant to me, and No Country for Old Men is a great movie. I would not put it in their top 5 for me personally.
Okay.
It might not even be top 10 for me personally.
Wow.
I don't dislike it, but it is not their best work, not their best film. It's good, and it beat There Will Be Blood for Best Picture.
Right.
It won. So because No Country for Old Men got the Coen Brothers an Oscar for Best Picture of the Year, and There Will Be Blood was a better film than that.
Yeah.
And Miller's Crossing is a better film. They didn't even get one nomination.
Right.
So that's why I say No Country for Old Men is overrated, because it received, and I realize the Oscars work that way, that you always win when I was a young idiot and thought someday I might get an Oscar, I always said to myself, if you're ever accepting an Oscar, you should just say, thank you for getting something for the one I didn't deserve it for. Because no one gets it for what they deserve it for.
Right.
It's always everyone realizes, oh,
we should
they
have.
deserved it 2 years ago. Let's make up for it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that all the time. We got the Oscar coming up. But we're talking next about the lesser known film that people should seek out.
The last one is the lesser known that people should seek out. And that's tough, because obviously I see a lot of esoteric shit. And of course, first of all, I would just have to say, every film on the Indie Channel, find indiechannel.tv.
Yeah.
Every film on there is fucking great, and they're indie and they're great. But I'll go with Peter Greenaway, is a London stage director who's made a handmade film. I know he's made more films than I've seen, actually, but I think his second film, his first film was Zoo, a Z and 2 knots, and then his second film was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
Yeah.
And that is just an amazing film. And what he does with the art form of cinema is remarkable. He does it's just so original. I think it's probably you can only get a film like that from a director who's focused on the stage and then comes to cinema and like just looks at it and goes, well, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
Whereas all the people who go to film school and study cinema, they have more rules.
Right.
So The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover is just one of the greatest. It's just amazing work.
Yeah, you mentioned the soundtrack to that. I think one of the last times we had a
soundtrack to that is
conversation.
amazing. Yeah. Oh, all the soundtracks to his films are written by, well, the ones I know of were written by an artist named Michael Nyman. And Michael Nyman is one of those British geniuses who, gets commissioned to write pieces.
Yeah.
And he wrote a piece to be played by a small chamber orchestra in an emptied out power plant or something that was like surrounded by concrete walls. So he wrote this piece of music called Memoriam. Memoriam. Holy shit, I should know that. But yeah, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife. Yeah, I'm supposed to send you that soundtrack, aren't I? Or that song.
You did say that.
I better remember to. Because I'm not sure people can stream it anywhere
Right,
either.
you
The
did
Cook,
say
the Thief,
that.
His Wife, and Her
That's why
Lover.
I didn't stream it myself.
I am very against torrenting, except when capitalism fails me and my tastes are too rare for them to. I can't even buy it.
Yeah, sure.
So I did torrent it.
Yeah.
So I have a copy.
Yeah. Listen, I think you telling people about it is making up for all those stolen streams there.
I know. God, I'm thinking of all kinds of nefarious things.
that you said on podcast.
I could take the version I downloaded, make a DCP out of it, and then like show it at Look as part of, you know what I mean? Like because I want to see it on a big screen again. I haven't seen it on a big screen since it came out, and it was it was noteworthy because it received, I believe it was one of the first, if not the first, films to get an NC-17 rating.
Oh,
because it's mature. And that's cool.
Yeah.
I think they made up NC-17.
coming from the guy making too much sex.
Yeah, it's true. Too much sex would have been NC-17, I guess. No nudity though.
Oh, look at that.
But there's nudity and some good nudity and Cook, Thief,
Some
Wife,
good nudity.
But when it came out, it got a lot of press for being. I think it was from Miramax, and I think Miramax fought the MPAA when they wanted to make it an X.
Yeah.
And they agreed to come up with this NC-17 because God forbid someone under 17 would see a film about people who enjoy sneaking into the bathroom of a restaurant to screw. It's beautiful. I'm going to watch it again soon.
Yeah.
The only bummer is the theatrical version isn't available. They added a scene to the DVD, and I'm like, no, it was right to cut that scene out. But anyway.
Okay. Oh, well, we got your list finally after
Got my list.
hundreds of recommendations.
Finally gone public with it.
It's out there, Jeff.
I know.
Can't take it back.
I know. And then and I would point out that Peter Greenaway, I mentioned how he's a stage director, and I mean, The Graduate was Mike Nichols, and he was a stage director.
Oh.
And his early stuff was very theatrical, but also rule breaking. There's stuff in The Graduate that isn't supposed to happen on screen, like as far as edits and lighting and things.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that's
Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah.
I think you're trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, that's it's funny. I think it was the same year as 2001, which is funny that 2001 is famous for the scene where he's in the spacesuit and you hear the we just hear what's inside. Right. And if you don't remember, in The Graduate, there's a time he has the aqua gear and he jumps in the pool and you just hear him breathing inside under the pool. Apparently, that was the first time that had ever been done. Those two films came out at the same time, and they had the same idea at the same time.
Ooh, interesting.
And just have to have the audio POV of the person you're looking at.
That's Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody was psychic then.
Yeah.
Or just two geniuses being around at the same time.
Couple of, yeah. It was in the, obviously it didn't suck to be making films in the late 60s, early 70s.
Right. It's a good time for those.
All right, my list.
The list.
The
It's
list.
down. It's down in audio file forever. Audio history.
Thank God I got Children of Men on there. I think everything would have been like from before 1990.
Right, I was going to say, we got some classics here, except for we're updating it all the
Well,
time.
that's the problem. It's so hard when you see something new to work it into your best ofs.
They really have to earn it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if I had time, I might actually, I'm just going to make an honorable mention, which is, I think Midsommar
Oh.
blew my brains out so nicely. But I've only seen it once.
Uh-huh.
The other ones I've seen like
Okay.
dozens of times. So I'm not sure I could put it in.
Maybe
but
one
you know what I
day.
mean? But I mean, but like if I watch Midsommar like 3 more times and just
Sure.
find it to be more brilliant every time,
Yeah.
I'd be up Schitt's Creek. Maybe I'd drop The Graduate.
Uh-oh.
Couldn't drop a Zill, I'll tell you that.
Okay. That's, well, I've got a list now that I need to watch. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for everything. Not only this podcast, but the, talking to hundreds of filmmakers and the 2 amazing film festivals that we have here in Los Angeles. That means so much to us.
Thank you so much. I'm going to note that I don't know how it worked out this way, but the podcast hit episode 500 this year, and both festivals hit year 10.
Oh.
This is the milestone year.
Yeah.
Go figure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jeff, and thank you.
Thank you.